Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back again. I am August C. Jones here with another edition of Reviewers Cast, where all I do is talk reviews about movies and shows and blah blah blah, episodes, trailers, whatever. And so on this episode, we're gonna be reviewing two movies again, which is Black Widow and Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, I want to put a disclaimer. I'm not here to bash movies. I know how the last episode went. This is kind of about to go the same route. But bear with me. Bear with me. The first movie I'm going to get into is Black Widow. Now, put it out there. I really did like this film. I saw it twice. That's because like the second time I went on a date. Whatever. But I did like this movie. It wasn't one of the best. It wasn't one of the strongest MCU films, compared to all the other MCU movies that was out. But I would say that it is above several MCU films. I know it wasn't a favorite amongst a lot of people, but I really did enjoy it. And I'm the person that really wanted to see a Black Widow movie. I may have mentioned it on the podcast before. I probably did some like on the Take One podcast like some years ago or whatever. But I always thought that it could, like a Black Widow movie could be successful, or maybe even a Black Widow and Hawkeye movie combined in kind of like the vein of Captain America: Winter Soldier. Like it could have been like that. I know a lot of people didn't really care too much for it, but to me, I felt like it could have been good, especially when they keep talking about Budapest. Like, let's see what happened in Budapest. Maybe make a whole movie revolving around that. So I was always kind of like down for a Black Widow movie. So when it was announced, I'm like, it's about time. But Black Widow died. So it was like, what's the purpose? And so watching this movie from beginning to end, I've realized that there is no purpose. Other than this is a movie that Kevin Feige wanted to do for the longest and finally was able to do it. It's a prequel that has no significant reason for being made. Not saying that, a lot of prequels have reasons to be made, but in this sense, along with the MCU, this movie was kind of like, I guess you could say it was a place filler. This movie was just really filler between movies that are going to make a significance, that have a real reason for existence to go on, because this movie really didn't have no real reason for existing. It has no major implications on the MCU's future. It has certain threads that may one thread, I ain't even gonna mention what it is, that is going to like happen, that has something to do with a future project. But overall, the movie has no major implications on future films. And that is kind of like just, sad to even know that. But one of the things that I kind of didn't like about this movie is that a lot of the fight sequences do have shaky cam. Not as bad as Snake Eyes. Let me put it out there. It's not as bad as Snake Eyes, but it does have a lot of shaky cam. The cameraman is moving with the actors, and I want to see the action. Like a Black Widow movie, you go there to see some ass kicking. I want to see the ass kicking. I don't want to see everything else, but it wasn't as bad, like I said, Snake Eyes. But from what they did give us, it does have some really good action and fight sequences in the movie. It's just not the best in the MCU franchise as a whole. This movie does take place between Civil War and Infinity War, and just to let you guys know. And one of the things I do really love about this movie is the family dynamic, how they interact with each other, from Black Widow and her sister to their mom and their father. They're just the family dynamic, especially when they're sitting at the table and having a discussion and talking. Like, I love that. I love David Harbour and how his character is with his daughters. And even just regarding the whole situation, like I just love it. I just love everything about their interactions and how they just are with each other, how they play off of each other. Florence Pugh is one of the standouts of this film, which I know a lot of people would agree, because after this movie dropped, there was a lot of stuff on Facebook and Instagram about Florence Pugh as a character. I mean, not even just because she's going to appear in like in the Hawkeye series and more than likely going to be in other films or whatnot, but it's like she just stood out. Like it was something about her. And the thing is like isn't my first exposure to Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh, I always thought that she was a phenomenal actress. From seeing her in Midsommar, seeing her in what other movie? Little Women, and it was like at least 2 other movies I've seen her in, and I just thought that she was an amazing actress. And I'm just like, yeah, I've had my eye on Florence Pugh. Like I've even said it before. I think in the Midsommar review I have on my channel was that I was taken back by her acting. Not taken back bad or nothing, but it was like I really, that was a real standout. I just thought that she was a terrific actress, and she proves it in this movie, and she comes off likable, and really she's getting the recognition that she needs. So hopefully she becomes way bigger with this movie than she was before, and I couldn't be more happy for her as an actress, because I feel like she is awesome. As well as David Harbour is a standout as well. He is, I guess you could say, he is the comic relief, and he is he is funny. He is funny. He has this obsession with himself as well as Captain America, always putting himself. He's obsessed with himself, the Red Guardian. If anybody gets his name wrong, he's always quick to correct them. He's obsessed with himself and just Captain America. Like that's his whole thing. But he also loves his girls, and he's a good guy, and I just love how he is in this movie. As far as Taskmaster goes, oh my God, Taskmaster in this movie I thought was going to be a prime villain. Taskmaster is very, very underutilized in this film. Just one of those villains that pop in and out. Does an action scene, pop out, pop in, does an action scene, pop out, and that's it. There's nothing really more to Taskmaster than that. And just Taskmaster, the character is not as impactful as I feel like the character should have been. And I'm not a heavy comic book reader, or really at all. So I can only imagine if I felt this way about a character that I know very little about. Other than just, I know even before I seen this movie, I already knew what Taskmaster was capable of. The photo reflexes. Anything Taskmaster sees, Taskmaster can do, and not duplicate it, but mimic or whatnot. So I already knew that, and so I can only imagine the little shit that I knew about Taskmaster. I can only imagine how a person that really loved that character felt about how this character was used in this movie. And yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame. Could have been a badass just character, but they just chose to go another route. And I get why they may have did it, but they could have done something totally different with Taskmaster. I don't know. But I did really like the hatred that was brewing between Natasha and Dreykov, the main villain. I really did like that. It was like you felt it. And the guy who plays Dreykov just came off as just like a sleazebag. He's one of those guys that you really just want to just punch in the face. And I love characters like that. And he plays it great. And I just love how when Natasha and him get face to face within the third act, their interaction, I felt that hatred brewing. I just really felt that. And I don't know. I just really love that about it. It does have some humor, especially when Florence Pugh points out Black Widow's stance when she drops down doing the superhero landing with the stance and stuff. Like that was funny. And even David Harbour, like I said, he's the comedic relief or whatever, the comic relief in this film, and he has many parts that are very funny. And it does have a semi post credit scene as well as a end credit scene, and it's really no credits before the post credit scene, so it's kind of like connected to the movie. I don't know. And the end credit scene does have some implications of the future MCU. But, I mean, you will see it whenever you see it. I'm not going to give anything away. But one thing I did notice that I felt was weird was that when a MCU movie ends, there's always some creative credits. And then you have the post-credit scene, and then it has the regular traditional credits. And then, the end credit scene. This movie didn't have that. It's kind of like this movie, they really didn't want to make it. It was just kind of like a love letter to Black Widow from Kevin Feige, kind of like a goodbye to Black Widow or whatever. And they were just like, okay, well, this movie is done, so let's go ahead and push it. And that's what it seemed like. It just seemed like it wasn't given as much care as other MCU films. And I'm just like, I don't know. It just came across that way. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. That's just how I felt. And surprisingly, this movie does have big stakes in it. Like when you get down to like the evil master plan and everything else, it is some big stakes that are like that need to be stopped. And I do like that. It's not like world-ending stakes, but it is something like crazy. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I didn't think it was one of the best, like I've said. Maybe in the bottom tier of movies, maybe close to the middle, but it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. I wasn't over the moon for it. I wasn't, put it like this, I've seen it twice. I don't know if I would sit down and rewatch it again, or if I will be in a hurry to rewatch it again. But I thought it was pretty decent. I feel like it really could have been better and maybe more relevant to the MCU future. Now they probably could have something in store with future films that maybe make this more relevant within its existence. But as of now, it has no purpose for existing. Like this movie could have not been made, and we probably would have like been better for it. It's sad to say. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I would say check it out in theaters. It's not worth $30 on Disney Plus. If you don't have kids that want to see it, that if you went to the theaters, it would cost maybe over $30. If you don't have kids like that, or a lot of people ain't gonna go see it, then just check it out in the movie or just wait. But, I mean, it's all up to you. I say it is worth the check out. It just wasn't the best. So, jumping away from that into the next film, Space Jam: A New Legacy. Oh, my gosh. Where do I begin? Now, put it like this. I didn't hate this movie like everyone else did. It's people that just completely despised it, that started watching it. My brother started watching it, turned it off after a certain amount of time, and I know it's a lot of people that felt that way. It's a lot of people that probably didn't even watch it because they are, oh, well, I love the original, and it's not gonna be as good because it has LeBron James, or you got people like that. Fuck them people, whatever. I'm watching it after giving it a chance. I didn't have high expectations for this movie, but I didn't also think that it was going to be revolutionary. And I was completely right about this. It was not revolutionary. This movie, just like Black Widow, had no reason for it existing. They could have just left the regular Space Jam or even just rebooted it. And it probably would have been better. But to make it a sequel, it made no sense. The plot for the villain, for why he's doing what he's doing, Don Cheadle, love you, man. Love you as an actor. You are great. You are fantastic. But this was not the role for you. This was just horrible. Horrible. This movie, it just really has no... okay, I could say some good things about it for me. I did enjoy it. Let me put it like that. I enjoy some of the scenes where they going and they're doing recruiting, and they come across different WB characters and all that stuff. That was cool. That was enjoyable. I did like that. The game, picking out the people in the crowd, that was cool. I enjoyed that. It did have some funny parts that I did find myself laughing to. Not crazy going LOL laughing out loud, but it did have some points where I'm like, okay, that was funny, whatever. Not all of them. A lot of the jokes and stuff was hit or miss. And mainly miss, but I did have some points where I did enjoy it. And it did have some entertainment for me. I didn't hate it, but I most definitely did not love it at all. Most definitely. Love would not be a way to explain it. LeBron James just is a horrible actor in this movie. He's just horrible. Now, given the first Space Jam isn't a masterpiece, we all love it because we grew up with it. It's nostalgic. This movie is kind of going off of that. And even though Michael Jordan wasn't a great actor in that movie, and I know a lot of you people be like, oh man, the first Space Jam was good and all this stuff. Yeah, it has a lot of good qualities as compared to this shit. But go back and rewatch the first Space Jam movie and tell me that is a great movie. It's not. It's a guilty pleasure at the most. It is a guilty pleasure. It's a nostalgic guilty pleasure movie. It is not a great movie. But that's no reason why this movie should not have been better. LeBron James, yes, he's horrible. In the voice acting point where he turned into a cartoon and even in live action, he's horrible. He's not a great actor. He's not. And this movie is very meta. Like I said, it's more of an advertisement for Warner Brothers as it goes into a lot of the Warner Brothers properties. From the Justice League, Wonder Woman, Superman, Harry Potter, Rick and Morty. Literally, it is just an advertisement for Warner Brothers and all of their just IPs. And it's very reminiscent. If you guys ever seen the movie Ready Player One, which is a way better movie that I think you guys should check out. That's a movie that's worth watching. That is somewhat of an advertisement, but at the same time, it comes off better. That's a movie worth checking out. It reminds me of Ready Player One, but not as good as that movie at all. And like I said, I did like the recruiting process when they're going to all the different IPs from just DC to the Matrix to Mad Max to all that stuff and recruiting the tunes and everything else. But I don't know, I guess this is me personally, because Michael Jordan really didn't have anything behind the scenes to do with the first Space Jam movie. He was just put into it through somebody else's idea. This movie has LeBron James as a producer. His company, Braun, is responsible for this movie being made. And it feels like he had to stroke his ego on this. Now, I get the first movie kind of sort of like that. Michael Jordan be the best basketball player of all time. We got to get him to play. But when you have a lot to do with the project that's boosting your ego, it doesn't look the same. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just a nitpick from me. I didn't necessarily find it bad, but I just found it kind of off-putting. Maybe, it was just like, okay, maybe this is going to come off a certain type of way. But one of the things that was very distracting, like when all the spectators were coming to watch the game and they're all around, like you have all of Warner Brothers characters in the last game. I barely remember what was going on because of the simple fact that while the court is surrounded by all these Warner Brothers characters, I found myself more interested with who's in the crowd. Oh, that's Penguin. That's the Mask. That's it. That's King Kong. That's this character. Oh, and I'm just looking to see who else am I going to see. And I don't know if they thought that out, but that is very distracting from just what you're supposed to be focusing on in the movie. And I don't think that they really did think that out. I really don't think that they really thought that out really real good. I don't think that. But it does have some decent Looney Tune humor. But overall, the humor Like I said, it's just mainly a miss. And the mode, I already have talked about that. I'm looking at my notes. I've already talked about the motivation of the villain, which is horrible. It does go for the emotional standpoint, which is kind of good, but it also makes the movie very predictable, especially with the game itself. It's very reminiscent to how the game concludes. It's very reminiscent to the first film. I don't know if anybody really picked that up, but it is very reminiscent to the first film of, and I'm not really gonna give away anything, even though I just whatever. I don't really recommend you even watch this movie if you haven't. But it's very reminiscent to how that game concludes. It's similar to how the first movie game concluded. But one of the big things that I didn't notice until after really sitting with the movie and everything else is that there is no space in Space Jam: A New Legacy. Within the first film, you had aliens coming from outer space, so it made sense. Space Jam, alien space, blah, blah, blah. But this movie has nothing to do with space in anything. It's like all the characters are from the computer. Everybody else is from the main world. Why is this called Space Jam? I don't think that they thought this out. I really don't think that they thought this out. And then on top of that, since this is a sequel and not a reboot, because they do have references to the first film with having the Monstars in there, the Monstars aliens or whatever, they do make a quick cameo, and I mean quick, like 2 seconds on screen. That's how quick it is. They don't have any type of major role in there. But in the first movie, you know, the the Looney Tunes come from underground. They come from deep inside the earth. That's where Looney Tunes land and everything is. It doesn't make sense when you look at the overall thing of just Looney Tunes, but they come from underground. In this movie, they're inside the computer. It makes no sense. The continuity is completely off. You have no space in Space Jam: A New Legacy, and then on top of that, the continuity with where the Toons are and why the bad guy did this and it's just it's not a great movie, not at all. I didn't hate it like everyone else did, but I understand their hatred for it. And I didn't dismiss it because I'm used to Space Jam and all that stuff, and this can't do it. No, I gave it a chance. I went to it open mind, and it really disappointed me. And another thing that you will witness is that the soundtrack isn't as prevalent as it was within the first film. Like, the soundtrack is great with the first film. I mean, honestly, this is where you get the song "I Believe I Can Fly." One of the biggest, basically the biggest song off of that soundtrack, besides that we gotta get up, it's time to jam now. We got a real jam going down. Welcome to this, besides that shit and like a whole bunch of other films. I mean, a whole bunch of other songs. It really don't have a great soundtrack. I think a little bit before they tried to boost the soundtrack, but it wasn't working. Like, I don't know. But when it comes down to it, this is a movie that you guys can definitely skip. If you had no intentions on watching this movie for whatever reason, whether it's you like you love the first one, they shouldn't have made the second one, you don't want to watch it, cool. Or you seen the trailer, it doesn't look appealing to you, whatever. Or you just ain't had a chance to watch it yet. You don't have HBO Max, or you're just busy and you couldn't sit down and watch it, or you just don't have time to go to the show. I'll just say skip it. You don't need to watch it. Go back and watch the original again. It's not great, but at least it's better than this film, I can say. Both of them are, if you like them, guilty pleasures, but the first one, hands down, is the better film. Hands down. But, yeah, so those are my thoughts on those two movies. Yeah, so I hope you guys like this episode of the podcast. And if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not yet. I will have more videos dropping not recently, but relatively soon. I ain't gonna say relatively soon, but soon. And that's it. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out. Stay blessed. Be safe.